In this video, we're going to talk about graphing systems. So how do we go from just the equations to determining what the solution is? So one method that we're going to talk about for this unit is to graph them. Remember our equations, y equals mx plus b gives me the slope of a graph and the y-intercept. Because I have a starting point, and my y-intercept my starting point, because of a starting point and slope tells me where my line should be headed after I have my starting point, okay, we can go ahead and graph these. So here is a system of equations. So y equals 3x plus 4 and y equals x plus 2. And I want to graph these in order to find my solution. So in order to find my solution, I am going to find my y-intercept of my first line. So I'm going to focus line by line. So just on this first one, and for now I'm going to ignore the second equation. So what is my y-intercept for my line number 1? Well, remember, y-intercept is the number that's by itself. So 4 is my y-intercept. So I'm going to go to the y-axis to the number 4 and plot my first point. My slope gives me directions to my next point. Remember, slope needs to be a fraction. Okay, so 3, and when whole numbers are fractions, I always put them over 1, so 3 over 1. So to finish off this line, I'm going to go to my dot, not to the center of my graph, but to my dot, and I'm going to count up 3 spaces, so 1, 2, 3 spaces, and over 1, and plot my dot. Connect my line, and I have my graph. Now when you plot them on Alex, it's going to extend my line in all the way across my graph, so it'll look something like this. Now that I've graphed line number 1, I'm going to ignore line number 1 and graph line number 2. So to graph line number 2, I'm going to find my starting point. The number that's by itself is the start. And I'm going to start the 2 on the y-axis, so we're going to use a different color so we can see the difference. So 2. Now my slope, which is in front of x, and you might panic right now and say, well, there's nothing in front of x. Remember, there's a 1 if there's nothing. And we're going to turn our whole number into a fraction. So 1 turns into 1 over 1. I'm going to go up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. And I'm going to connect my dots. Now when I connect my dots, it's going to connect it all the way going the opposite direction as well. Okay. And remember, a solution to a system is where my 2 lines, or a dot that's on both lines, or where the 2 lines cross. So this right here, and I'm going to point a big arrow to it, this right here is my solution. Now I need to state my solution, not just point at it. So my solution is the ordered pair. Well, what's the x value of this dot? The x value is -1, and the y value is +1. So I need all of these components for my final answer, the graphs as well as my solution. Let's look at a different example. So here's a system, y equals, now I'm going to remember focus equation by equation. So ignoring the second one, plot my first point at -1, the number that's by itself. Since it says -1, it's -1. So there's my start. My slope, which is 2, remember to write it as a fraction, 2 over 1 tells me how to get to my next point. Go to the dot, rise, and then run. So rise 2, run 1. I'm going to connect my dots, and it shall extend it for me. And now we're going to focus on the second equation. So on the second equation, where's my starting point? My starting point is at the number that's by itself, which is -4. So start at -4 on the y-axis. So start at -4 on the y-axis. There's my point. My slope, well, what number is that? That's -1, which I'm going to convert to a fraction. -1 over 1 means I'm going to count down 1 and over 1, down 1 and over 1. And if I extend my line going the opposite direction, extend it going both ways, I can see that my dots, my lines are going to cross right here. So here's my solution. Now I just need to write my ordered pair. It crosses at -1, and down 3, -1, -3. All right, let's try one more. Make sure we got the hang of this. So on this problem, again, focus equation by equation. My starting point is at 3. So start 3 on y-axis. So starting point 3 on y-axis. My slope tells me my rise, and I need to make sure it has a run. So if it doesn't have a run, it's always over 1. So my line is going to count from my dot down 3 and over 1. And I'm going to extend it in both directions. My second graph, let's choose a different color. My second graph has a starting point of -1, so start at -1 on the y-axis because of the -1. So -1 on the y-axis, there's my dot. And my slope, well, it's negative. So remember, no slope is 1, so -1. And then I'm going to make it fraction, -1 over 1. So starting from going to that blue dot, I'm going to count down 1 and to the right 1, always to that right. Down 1 and to the right 1. And with my lines extended, I can see that they cross right here. And what is that solution? 2 is my x value, and -3 is my y value. So here is how I'm going to go ahead and find the solutions from graphs. If you have any questions at all, or you'd like to set up a Google Meet, please let me know. I'm happy to for anybody. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.